Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of... Wait a second, this is different. We're doing a slight change. Today we're having a nice episode of Change in Game. For those of you who haven't been here before, Change in Game is a series that is kind of a spin-off since I usually do Star Trek State of the Federation. Change in Game is for, well, occasionally you need to take a little break, so why not change up your game a little bit? Today I'm joined by co-host Joseph. Joseph, how are you doing tonight?
Ahoy, hoy. I'm well. As always.
I thought you were Joseph. But no, we jest.
That's just the kind of humor they should come to expect in the next hour and a bit.
Indeed. You know, this isn't the strict hardcore, this is strategy, fight to win kind of game deal today. Today is kick back, have some fun, and maybe find something cool and new to play with. You guys might see I've already got some of my images up and loaded for one of the games we're going to be talking about today. But today we're going to talk a little bit about King's Bounty Crossworlds. It's a continuation of a series that's actually has quite a bit of history to it. It's a great kind of fantasy-based strategy game. After that, we're probably going to take a look at... what are we going to take a look at after that? I lost my folder. Star Realms.
Star Realms.
Yes. Joseph will be taking a closer look at Star Realms if anyone has not seen or played that yet. It's a great little card game. Does it count? Can it count as little? I guess I suppose it counts as a little card game compared to how huge some other card games are.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
And a deck building game, I guess you'd categorize it as.
Yeah, I'd go for that. Followed up by some D&D Attack Wing, since I know that Star Trek Attack Wing might have, a couple viewers that might be watching this. So it's been a few months since that's been released, so it might be time to check out, how much that's changed, and if it is, for everyone who was like, I kind of got burned on Star Trek, is D&D going to be better for me? And last but not least, if we have some time, we might take a little jaunt back into history with a cult classic favorite, I'm pretty sure. Some of you might know it, called Chrono Trigger.
For the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
Woohoo! Is that one of those things that's been re-released on the new Nintendo Marketplace? That'd be really cool.
Yeah, I think it's on one of the marketplaces, and it's definitely been re-released for the DS in the last few years. So
cool. Readily
readily available in stores now. So not too irrelevant, not too distant in the past, I guess.
But definitely would probably count as like one of those classic games. Because that's definitely pre-2000, right?
95.
Nice.
1995.
In case you didn't think you guys were old yet. But yeah, so welcome. Hope you guys enjoy the show. How's it going, Scatorius? I don't actually recognize that name. But glad to have you all here. And then let's go ahead and get started. First one on game I'm going to be talking about is King's Bounty Crossworlds. This is a strategy game. You don't need the audio. This is a strategy game. Some people might know the original King's Bounty was released way early 90s, maybe late 80s. I'm actually not sure. I should have done a little bit more research. But King's Bounty was the game that originally predicated another one of my favorite strategy games was Heroes of Might and Magic. It's a game where you build up armies. They do battle on this kind of hex-based grid, and it's not like a real-time strategy game where you have like every single unit represented. Your units are basically a collection of all the units of that type you have represented by like a single figure. So you have like one dragon moving across the field, but it actually represents, your legion of 20 dragons raining fiery death down upon everybody, and all sorts of good stuff. It helps keep the combat, kind of small and manageable, but still the ability to have massively huge armies in a way.
And the Heroes in Might and Magic had kind of creeps, random monster encounters too, right? So that's another similarity to RTS games like like Warcraft.
Oh yeah, definitely. So the main point of this particular game, Heroes of Might and Magic was, a kingdom builder. You built buildings and you sent your heroes out with your armies, and that was pretty much it. You leveled them up, and you got the biggest armies with the best economy you could get.
Conquered other castles.
Indeed, King's
That was
Bounty is basically, take those kind of ideas and boil them down into like one hero. Like this is the adventure of one hero. So instead of leveling up, your nation, you're just leveling up your one guy, or in this case, your one princess. Because Crossworlds is the what do I want to say? Technically, it's like the third installment. The King's Bounty, since it was re-released back in like 2004, has had a couple installments. Crossworlds was released in 2010. It includes Armored Princess, which is actually the game I was going to do a review on until I realized, oh wait, the entire game is part of this one. Because it also includes 2 extra, kind of mini campaigns, and the Armored Princess basically director's cut. So hours upon hours of things. Armored Princess was the second title in the series, which followed King's Bounty: The Legend. You do not need King's Bounty: The Legend to make sense of what's going on in this game. It just acts more like a kind of prologue, and I would recommend this game greater because it actually, reworked kind of the skill trees, some of the creatures, some of the things that people were kind of annoyed with, whenever you release a game for the first time, or a game the first time again, since this was kind of like a re-release of an old 80s, 90s classic. There's always a couple hiccups. So this is kind of like the revised version that I want to recommend to everybody.
I'm sorry, what was the difference in years between the first and second game getting released?
I believe original King's Bounty was 2004, followed by Armored Princess in like 2006.
Okay.
And this was a recent re-release of it. That's released in 2010, and included some extra content. So if you are able to, Crossworlds is the one you want to aim for, because it contains all of Armored Princess and then some. However, Armored Princess still exists because Crossworlds is a PC-only port. Armored Princess can also be done on a Mac, which is basically the big thing. But you're basically traveling around, there's islands that you will be traveling around. There will be wandering armies, it'll look like your creeps and stuff. That there's no random encounters. You can kind of see every army that you want to fight against on the minimap or on the adventure map, and then you can kind of decide, click on the army, be like, hey, this army is strong compared to mine, or this army is weak compared to mine, before you go into all the whole strategy destruction phase. So you go around, you find castles, houses, you purchase creatures to fight in your armies. You purchase artifacts to increase your abilities, and then you go fight more, armies and castles and conquer things and basically make everybody else's day better. Hey, my wife was captured in that castle. Can you go rescue her? Sure, why not? That's what I do. I'm a hero.
And so you're training units as well, not just buying them, right?
For the most part, it's generally just buying units. There are some special occasions where you can upgrade a unit into another type of unit, but for the most part, hi kitty, good morning. But for the most part, you'll stick with the units that you've got, and then as occasionally as some of them fall as casualties in battle, you just go and replenish them with the same type. Or if you have progressed to the next castle, maybe you have new types of troops that you want to go over. Like in the first castle, you start with basic footmen and archers, but once you get to like the second castle or the second island, you can start recruiting like robbers, marauders, griffins if you're lucky, things like that, and all the way up to like dragons and archdemons and angels and things. So there is definitely a progression.
And can you just buy as many of them as you have gold, or is there a time mechanic as well?
There is almost every creature is in a limited supply. That is going to be your limit on a game. Kind of like you're not able to. The only way you can really lose this game is if you actually buy out all of these stocks of creatures and just had them all die.
Wiped
But
out.
there's actually a couple that are of infinite supply. They're generally some of the lower level units once you get later in the game. Like your little level 1 peasants that have 5 hit points. You can actually buy hordes of them, and by the time you're like level 20 or 30, you can have like 1,000 of them in your army.
And probably a dragon wipes out half of them in one attack or something, right?
In Heroes of Might and Magic, that would be the case, but no, in this, it's probably a quarter of them or so.
Okay.
Peasants die kind of easily. It's the thing that happens with the life of a peasant.
As they should. That's
Yeah.
what they're there for.
Progression through the game is actually really neat. If I can just stop on the character screen here. You've got a couple things that you can look at. As you level up, you increase a couple of your stats. You've got attack, defense, and intelligence. Attack, of course, your creatures deal more damage. Defense, your creatures take less damage. And intelligence means you cast more powerful spells. And spells are the coolest thing ever. One thing that Armor Princess did, though, Mage in the original game was kind of like the only way to go because, Magic does all sorts of cool things, right?
Just like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of a upper level character, right?
Oh yeah, you can really stomp on things pretty well in the lower levels, but in the upper levels, you really want your ice bolts to freeze the enemy, or your stone skin, so you're taking like no damage.
Right.
One of the things they added in Crossworlds, you get a little tiny pet dragon. And he's cute and adorable, and apparently he is powered by your anger and your rage. So this is a way that, like your warrior barbarian types, the more times you just straight up hit people over the head, the more rage you build, and then you spend your rage to have your dragon do something cool, which is basically a magical effect. It's a little bit more limited than spells, but you do have a wide variety of things. Like he has skills that can place an egg on the battlefield, and you hatch a new army out of that egg that lasts for that battle. Or summons chain lightning that will stick around and do like 20% of an enemy army, every turn for like 2 turns.
Wow.
Or if you're short on money.
Help balance out some of the non-magic casting. I assume you can play heroes that don't have access to magic, right?
Everyone will have access to magic. It's just to what degree.
Okay.
You're basically playing one hero, but one of 3 different types. You can be the warrior, who's focused on attack, defense, and building up rage, which means your little baby dragon is going to be doing a lot of helping you out. You can be the holy paladin, who focuses a little bit more on defense. It's kind of the hybrid, defense and spell casting. Not as good as casting, like the fireballs and everything, but can really do well with the healing, resurrection, and defensive spells. And then last but not least, you have the mage type, which can do any kind of magic it wants really well, but it has the lowest, attack and defense, and it also has the lowest leadership. And I think that's one of the attributes that I didn't talk about yet. Leadership is the size of the army you can maintain. So if you have a leadership of like 200, your archers will have a leadership requirement of like 50. So if you have a leadership of 200, you can have 4 archers in your army. Things like dragons have like requirements of 2,000. So if you get up to 2,000, you can have 1 dragon in your army. But then again, you can also have like 100 archers. So that's kind of the way that it limits you from getting too powerful at too early a level. Even if you find a way to get like 1,000,000 gold at level like 2, 3, or 4, you're still not going to be walking around with 20 dragons at your beck and call and just wiping everything out on the first level.
Right, and so, well, that's a bonus, but boy, that's appealing.
I mean, if you leave a couple of them there for later, I mean, that's always fun. It's just like, oh look, click, you're dead.
And if you had 2,000 leadership, would it be better to take one dragon, or would it be better to take a combination of other units?
You know what? That's where half the fun of the game lies. Trying to determine what kind of composition works for you. Um, like up in the 1,500 to 2,000 range, there's like giant stone cyclopses that you can't heal them because they're made of stone, but they're one of the few like really high level ranged attack units that can hit at any range. A lot of ranged units have a limited range and do like less damage if you go farther than that. The dragons are really sturdy, but they have to be up close and in combat in melee. Or you have something like the demonologist, who sticks back, has kind of a ranged attack, but it's really short range, but also can just summon other lower level troops to the battlefield every combat. So depending on how you want to run it, you can do all sorts of different crazy things.
Multiple paths to victory, it sounds like.
Indeed. I like it a lot. Though generally having things with really high hit points really helps a lot. It's very useful when your dragon can take 300 damage from a fireball that would wipe out a troop of 100 peasants, or even if 150 peasants. Losing 100 of your 150 peasants is not generally a good way to win battles.
Then the attack rating is it similar to Heroes in Might and Magic in that the attack rating obviously depends on how many units you have of that type, right?
Yeah. So like if your unit does like 2 to 3 damage, if you have 100 units, you're doing 200 to 300 damage.
Right.
And if you have like 30 attack skill compared to your opponent's like 10 defense skill, you'll do like double damage. But if you have like 10 attack versus your opponent's 30 defense, you'll do like half damage. Things like that. That help you weigh the benefits of should I really start focusing more on my own all around attack skill, or should I focus more on trying to get my leadership up and just get more troops in general?
Right. And so would you say these strategy balancing elements, would you say they're a pretty heavy steep learning curve, or a lower end kind of thing?
I mean, for the most part, after you going through, the initial tutorial, it's a pretty, simple and straightforward game. You click on a unit. Let me see if I can find a battle scene. You click on a unit, you can see how far it moves. If you're within range of an enemy unit, you can have it attack the enemy unit, and then that unit's done. It's very basic kind of move, attack. Man, I wonder what kind of games we've played before that have those kind of mechanics. Good old Star Trek. And then occasionally they have special abilities that you can take as, like an action. I am relating things. This is incredible and hilarious. But it's not a very steep learning curve to know, just know how to play. But there are definitely some kind of power combinations that you're going to want to try to figure out as you go along and play the game. And since I want you guys to enjoy the game, I'm not going to specifically point any of those out right now. Except, number one, you always have access to a unit called Inquisitors at the beginning of the game. They are really good. Because they come with the ability, a one-time use ability every battle to resurrect some of your troops.
Oh, wow.
And resurrection is also usually, one of those things that's very rare in RPG kind of fantasy game styles things.
Yes.
I enjoy that a lot.
And typically you would lose troops in every battle in this game, right?
There are some battles, especially if you start going with more of the higher level units that have higher HP. If you keep up with your healing and your defense, there are definitely ways to keep your losses down. But I think there are definitely always going to be some battles you're going to take some losses. There are actually, if you ever go on the forums and go start talking to people and see how they're playing, there are people that play impossible level 0 troop casualty games. And that's like the hardest of the hardcore. But you do get rewards for every battle. There are special, medal achievements in-game. So if you actually manage to do like 10 no-loss battles, you get a free boost to your leadership. Or if you cast 70 fireball spells, you get an increase in your fire damage and your mana that you can hold on to. Things like that.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
I like little achievement systems.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that hooks even more.
It's like, man, I lost one horseman in that last battle. I think I could have done that again better. And that's when you get into that little perfectionist state, Maybe this is the XCOM player in me talking, but all right, let's reload. Let's try that battle again. Hour and a half later, all right, I finally got it with no losses.
That's pretty good.
But no, if you're very careful and you like taking a little bit more time, especially with things like the dragon that can summon troops early on in the game. Like summoned troops don't count towards your losses because they didn't last past the battle anyway. So that's usually a good way, They make great meat shields, and then you have like a bunch of archers to shoot and stay safe and things like that. As long as you don't run into the enemy heroes, because there'll be enemy regular just troops just laying around that'll try to fight you and keep you from getting cool loot and treasure. But there's also like enemy heroes wandering around. So in addition to having just the army, they can also cast spells, increase the abilities of their creatures' attack and defense, and so on. And the most annoying thing they always do is they'll have one unit left. They'll cast a fireball, and that unit will go and attack something that instantly kills it, and then the battle's over, and I can't heal anybody.
And they probably, like you said, healing and defensive buffs. So, but you always know that the hero's in the battle, right? Before when you click on it to see if it's.
Yep. You can scout out things before you go on it. The pause function is very useful because it's all in real time on the adventure screen, and they have like little patrol paths. And if you get close enough, they'll start chasing you down. So you got to like run around the corner if you don't actually want to face them and things like that.
Huh.
So there's a little bit of action to it too if you're one of those people that wants to just kind of lead an army away from the treasure chest, sneak around them, get the treasure chest, and then run away.
So it's certainly more of a spiritual relation to Heroes of Might and Magic. The more and more you talk about it, right? Because there's no real time stuff in that.
Correct. The main thing is, the battle system is, if you've played either of these games, the battle system in those you'll recognize it instantly because you'll have your 5 or 6 troop representations on the big hex grid, and then you'll just go after each other. You have your little troop of demons there, and they will shoot their eye lasers at the giant lizard T-Rex over there. Which is another thing. They didn't have lizard men in the last game. So this one adds lizard men, so you can actually now have a T-Rex.
Oh wow, okay. So wow.
It's not an actual T-Rex, it's a T-I-R-E-X, but it's a giant dinosaur.
Does it messily devour lawyers and reassert its dominance over humans? Because if it does, it's a T-Rex, all right.
It can eat people. We love the devour ability. And even beyond that, just there's all kinds of neat little things. Like, considering that this game is basically travel around on an adventure map and then fight in these specific tactical batters and then repeat, ad nauseum for hundreds of times. It's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. I enjoy it a lot. What's the other thing? There are of course some special battles which are really cool. I wanted to find, where did it go? Sometimes instead of facing an army, sometimes you're facing a giant enemy. Because this game includes giant enemies. So one of the pictures I have is an army facing off against a kraken trying to eat your ship. So the kraken actually takes up like 7 spaces on the battlefield. And then you go after it and try to take it out. And then every so often they'll like pick up some giant piranha terror fish from the ocean beside it and drop them on the deck to try to attack you as well. It's considering that from a game design perspective, you basically have a stationary building summoning creatures every other turn. It's actually a pretty cool feeling when you just see like the giant tentacles slap down on the deck and like squish your paladins for a couple thousand damage.
I'll say. It sounds like it's got a sample of all kinds of every all the high notes in fantasy and adventure just crammed in.
Oh yeah, everything you could really want in a strategy game. You know, you've got units, you've got range, you've got melee. You can create. You have obstacles on the battlefield. You can create obstacles on the battlefield sometimes. You summon things. You bring fireballs down. I mean, there's just all kinds of fun things you can do. I'd be like, bring the Warhammer guys in here. Let's just destroy everything. You know, we don't need that many dice. Just give me a. Just give me the one random, you know, damage dealing aspect, and then give me all these abilities that are pretty easy to keep track of.
Nice.
Also, anything that doesn't let the enemy retaliate is pretty good too.
Attack cancellation. It's always good.
It's like you might have problems until you get that invisibility spell, but once you get that,
then it's clear sailing. You can't attack something that's invisible?
The enemy AI will ignore something that's invisible. So it only works against certain level things. Like, is it that way? Yeah, there's one. It's either one way or the other. Either you can only make low level troops invisible, or you're only invisible to your enemy's low level troops. I don't remember because I don't use it very often.
Right. Speaking of the AI, sort of, is it only one player, or can you play? Can you play against another person who's controlling another hero?
That is the sad part about it. This is a single-player game. But there are plenty of games I feel that have done single-player really well. My go-to game, of course, would be XCOM, and XCOM is generally... the new XCOM released with like a multiplayer mode that was a little disastrous, but we won't talk too much about that one. But really, you know, it became a critically acclaimed game, like Game of the Year 2012 or something, Strategy Game of the Year, because the single-player campaign was just so, you know, so cool, so involved, and did so many neat things.
Yeah, I generally tend to prefer them, actually.
Oh yeah,
it's certainly a different kind of experience. It's really hard to have certain kind of events between, like, you can't have a Kraken, you know, showing up right when it's two players because
then it would just take up all the space that your army needs.
yeah, exactly.
I believe there might have been an MMO version of this at some point. I think I saw that somewhere on Steam, but I haven't tried that one, so I'm not too certain about that.
And Steam's the place to get this, right? Is that what
Steam is the place where I got mine from. You can also get it off of GOG is a good place as well. They do DRM free games. It goes for, this is King's Bounty Crossworlds. This contains all of Armored Princess. So if you can get Armored Princess, skip that one and get Crossworlds because it contains all of that and more. Definitely also put it on your watch list. It's only like $14.99, so you can definitely get it if you wanted to, pretty easily. But it goes on sale fairly. It's one of those games that goes on sale fairly often, since it's also a little bit older. And this will go under $5, probably at least, you know, every 3 months or so.
And how long did you say it takes to complete it?
I am currently. I did it. I was 10 hours in on my paladin before I was like, nah, screw this. I want to cast spells. I am now 40 to 45 hours in on my mage, and I think I am still only about halfway through the game.
Oh, that's tremendous.
So you can so for the cost to, you know, amount of time you can get out of it ratio, it's really up there, which is another thing I like about it. And
it beats going to a movie.
That's just this one game. If you really like this, you can also check out King's Bounty: The Legend, which is the prequel. King's Bounty: Fire and Ice, I think. Something about the barbarian tribes. I heard that one was not quite as good as this one, but still okay. And they actually are releasing a new one that came out. It's either coming out like in the next month or it just came out. Is like the Dark World, where you play the bad guy. So instead of having the griffins and the dragons and the knights in your army, now you get to find the forces of the demons that are invading and try to take over the world.
Well, that's gonna be a hit with the kids, as they say.
You know, this isn't one of those games that tries to reinvent itself every time. It does a couple little tweaks, a couple little variations, and you know exactly what you're getting. So if you like this game, definitely check it out. It's called King's Bounty Crossworlds, available on Steam, and keep an eye out for it. Loads of fun. There is a demo. I hear the demo is a little bit iffy because it starts you off at like level 25 in a level 1 area. But
You just destroy.
it should definitely give you an idea of, a little bit of how the combat works and stuff. So if you like that, then go ahead, definitely pick this one up. I enjoy it. I have been playing it for like the last week straight, and I probably will be playing it for another week straight.
Wow. Well, there you go. To the exclusion of all your other games?
I'll be honest, I don't play that many games all that often. I'm one of those guys that has a Steam library full of stuff that he hasn't played. Got like 100 games. I've probably played about 20 of them.
Well, you're set for life.
Indeed,
You've got a lifetime of games.
That's how I like to think about it. But yeah, that is my review of King's Bounty Crossworlds. Very nice little kind of turn-based strategy game. Next up, we have... Oh no, I lost my pictures. No, they're gone. Why are they gone? Oh, there it is.